Chapter 1. The corpse was floating at the edge of the channel that runs between Sister Key and its larger neighbor, Longboat Key. Only the back was visible above the surface, the body bent over as if tying a shoe, the head and feet submerged. It was moving north, its pace languid, matching that of the outgoing tidal current. Carl Moats was out early that Saturday morning, cruising at first light toward the Coast Guard station in Cortez. He was commander of the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary Flotilla based on Longboat Key, a small island off the southwest coast of Florida. He planned to meet his crew, have breakfast in the station mess, and head out for a safety patrol on Sarasota Bay. It was the first Saturday of fall, as it was measured in the temperate climes of southwest Florida. Every year, between mid-October and early November, people wake up one morning and realize the humidity has dropped to the point that they don't break into a sweat simply by walking outside. Autumn has finally come to the peninsula, several weeks after the calendar suggested that summer had ended. The temperature will drop some more in the coming weeks into the 60s and 70s. Occasionally, the cold fronts will move down from Canada and bring a chill to the subtropical air, but for the most part, the weather will be mild until the middle of May, when the humidity rises to levels that chase the less hardy back north. Moats knew the local boaters would be out in force on such a Saturday. Rafting up on the sandbar just inside Longboat Pass, or nosed onto Beer Can Island, or fishing the offshore reefs in 20 feet of water, or the Back Bay Flats, or tanking up at one of the local bars that provided docks for their boats. It was Moats' job to keep them safe, remind them to wear their life jackets, and not drink too much. It was a fine day to be an auxiliaryman, and Carl was looking forward to his tour of duty. Moats spent his weekdays as a law professor, but his weekends were dedicated to his boat. He'd once been a fierce prosecutor, so was not unaccustomed to death or even to murder. But that was far from his mind as he steered his boat north along the narrow channel. The sun was hanging low on the eastern horizon, the water calm. A commercial mullet fisherman steered his boat across the flats separating the main channel from Longboat Key, his outboard motor emitting a high whine as he skimmed across the surface of the water. Carl's first view of the body was from the periphery of his right eye, a quick impression of something out of the ordinary in the shallow water at the edge of the intracoastal channel. He had been scanning the water off his bow, alert for any floating obstruction. The side of the body registered on his brain after his eyes had moved on toward the middle of the channel. His head jerked back to the right, and he pulled the throttles into neutral. The boat, a 30-foot center console with twin outboards, came off plane and settled into the water. The manatees were migrating into the bay, searching out warmer water in which to spend the winter. They would travel south to the more temperate lagoon provided by the outfall of a power plant on the banks of the Caloosahatchee River. Sometimes they didn't make it. They became victims of boat propellers or waited too long in the cold waters of the Gulf of Mexico and died from injuries or pneumonia. Moats sighed and eased his boat toward the carcass, saddened by another death of a gentle creature threatened with extinction. He'd get a line on the body to secure it in place and call the dispatcher at the Cortez Coast Guard station to deal with removing it. Carl watched his depth sounder as he moved toward the body, careful of the bottom rising as he neared the edge of the channel. The carcass was coming into focus. It was small for a manatee, probably a baby, Carl decided. He was about 10 feet from the body when a commercial fishing boat lumbered down the channel behind him. Carl felt his boat rise as the wake crossed under it, and watched as the wave continued, rolling over the body and turning it so that a face emerged briefly from the water. This was no manatee. It was the body of a human. A woman, probably. Carl knew better than to disturb what might be a crime scene. He picked up the microphone of his marine radio, hailed the Coast Guard station at Cortez, and described what he was seeing. The Coast Guard radio man, actually a young woman on that quiet fall morning, advised that she would contact the Longboat Key police, since the body was within their jurisdiction.